who can actually deal the most damage in Marvel Crisis Protocol in a single attack action. Who's above the curve, who's below the curve, and who are the characters that you should be including in your roster if you want to maximize your damage output. Let's take a look. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Mid Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. And a long time ago, it feels like now, when I first started making these videos for YouTube, I put together two videos. One was around which character was the fastest or could move the furthest, and then the other one was who packed the hardest punch. Now, when I did that video, the only thing I was considering was how many dice can they roll. We took no other factors into account. So with all the dice mathematics that I've been looking at over the past couple of weeks, I thought it would be a fun video to see who, in the real world, who can we expect on average to do the most consistent damage for us. We've of course had to put some baselines and some rules in place for this, otherwise it would be almost impossible to work out the actual damage. But the baseline character that we're going to be attacking is a size 2 character with 3 defense across the board and absolutely no defensive superpowers whatsoever. In addition to that, the characters are going to be allowed no outside help. This means tactics cards, even if they're character specific, any leadership abilities, even if they're the leader that can give that ability themselves, and lastly, any buffs from any other players that may be in their affiliation. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it and take a look at who are the biggest hitters in Marvel Crisis Protocol. So starting at the absolute bottom of the pack then, the 4 weakest characters in Marvel Crisis Protocol, and that's going to be the 2 new grunts, so the hand ninjas and the shield agents, and also Black Widow and Wong, all coming in at 1.23 damage in total. Next up then is going to be Black Cat, all by herself. Now she's only using her builder cat claws, but that pierce bumps her up ever so slightly to 1.53 average damage. Next then are the 2 characters with a strength 5 and no modifiers on there whatsoever. There's only 2 that we're using in this one. That's going to be Hawkeye and Honey Badger, coming in with an average damage of 1.7. Miss Marvel, all by herself in her embiggen form this time, doing her high 5, coming in at 2.11 damage. Next then are the strength 6 characters. So these include Beast, Clear, Proxima Midnight, Quicksilver, Spider-Man Peter Parker, Viper and Wasp in her tiny form. We've also got Daredevil with his Devil's Deliverance, and we've assumed that there are going to be 2 characters in range, taking it from a 2 strength attack up to a 6 strength attack, and they're all coming in at 2.2 average damage. Next then, the 2 characters in our list who are going to be using their rapid fire on their strength 4 attacks, and that is Mystique with her pistol, and then Black Widow, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., automatic pistol, both coming in at 2.45. Next up then, with an average damage output of 2.48 using her Earthshaker, is Crystal, and she's the first of our characters where we've included a special condition that she can dish out, in this case Incinerate, as it will reduce the defender's dice by 1. And just ahead of her is X-23 with her Claw Rush, 6 strength with her Pierce plus a reroll, giving her an average damage of 2.53. From the core box, Dr. Octopus with his arm lasers, 6 strength energy attack with a pierce on a wild, is doing an average damage of 2.63. Lockjaw with his bite, and he's going to be getting 5 dice here because of that interdimensional bloodhound, plus his reroll, puts him on an average damage of 2.65. Next then is all of our characters with a strength 7 attack. Some of them here have been able to boost themselves, so Storm with her Hurricane for example. We've got Ant-Man, we've got Cable, Colossus, Cyclops, Enchantress, Lizard, Omega Red, Rocket Raccoon, Shuri, Taskmaster and Venom, all doing an average of 2.73 damage. Baron Mordor with his Reigns of Ragador, dishing out that Hex before he does his attack, means that he's going to just beat the other Strength 7 characters, coming in at 2.82. Closely followed by Green Goblin and Hela, both on 3.15 damage. Green Goblin with a 7 strength attack, but dishing out Incinerate. And then Hela with a Rain of Hell, where their opponent can not count wilds as successes if they're bleeding already. A whole host of characters then coming in at the next average damage level, which is 3.2. We've got Kraven the Hunter with his Spear Thrust, Vision with his Synthesoid Avenger, Captain America Sam Wilson with Red Wing Assault, also Captain America Steve Rogers with Shield Sam. We've got Ghost Spider doing Freestyle Beatdown, Mr. Sinister with his Recombinant Disingeneration. We've got Spider-Man Miles Morales with his Webline Kick, and then Thor, Prince of Asgard, with his Strike. It's also important to note here that any character that's going to have a throw at the back end of their attack, we're counting that as doing 1 additional damage because that's the guarantee that you can do. Coming up next then with 3.27 average damage at all the characters with a Strength 8 attack, plus Star-Lord with his full auto because of Plucky Attitude. So we've also got Cassandra Nova, Hood in his possessed form, we've got Iron Man in his injured form using Unibeam, Ronan the Accuser with Kree Justice, Thanos the Mad Titan with his Cosmic Blast, and we've obviously paid the extra 3 power for the extra 3 dice on Thanos. All by herself then is Okoye with her Vibranium Spear Thrust. It's a physical attack, range 2, strength 5, but it's got a pierce and flurry on there. So with that flurry, we can expect to do an average damage of 3.29. Next up are all the characters with a Strength 6 attack where they're able to reroll any of their dice. Now, Black Panther with his Kinetic Burst is fairly straightforward. However, Magneto's Reverse Polarity requires that the target is within range 2, and Nebula with her Shock Sword Assault needs to make sure that her opponent is either contesting or holding an objective, but they're all coming in at 3.39 average damage. 3 characters next, all at 3.4 damage. We've got Bullseye with his Pincushion. We've got Gamora with her Cosmic Assassin. Let's not forget she's got a Pierce on a Wild, plus she's got the deadliest woman in the world. We've then got Magic with her Dark Child attack, remembering again that she includes failures from both her and her opponent's rolls. Ultron up next with his Metallic Fury, making use of that Incinerate from his previous attack, coming in at a 3.42 average damage. Ancient One with her Astral Strike, big Strength 8 attack, but no crits for the defender, either exploding or including, giving her an average damage of 3.64. Everyone's favourite splashable 3-threat character next, Baron Zemo with his Steel Rush, and this is why he is so good, even out of affiliation. Paying the extra power for the Master Swordsman, he's coming in at an average damage of 3.66. 5 characters next, all with a Strength 7 attack, but with a throw at the back end doing that extra 1 damage. We've got Kingpin, Luke Cage, Red Skull, Rogue and Wolverine, all doing an average damage of 3.73. War Machine with his Empty the Clip with the unique ability that allows him to add double the amount of dice every time he rolls a crit in the initial attack roll. So he's coming out an average of 3.77 damage. Doctor Strange with his Crimson Bands of Cyttorak. Let's not forget his Eye of Agamotto, which allows him to reroll failures, but coming in at a 3.80 average damage. 4 characters next who are all going to be rolling 9 dice in their attack rolls. We've got Bob with his Excessive Violence, Captain Marvel with her Rocket Punch, obviously in binary form. We've got Moon Knight with his Avatar of Khonshu. Now we are getting the extra 2 dice from multiple personalities. And then Shadow and Daredevil with his Demon's Devastation, getting the extra 2 dice from the Hand Ninjas. All coming in with an average damage of 3.82. Loki, a character that I think people have been sleeping on for a little while, especially with his damage output on his injured side, because we've got that aura there of God of Mischief, but we're going to be doing his Illusions attack, a 6 strength attack, but we're going to be using I Am God so that we get to count blanks, giving us an average damage of 3.94. Just beating out Loki and just underneath that 4 average damage mark is Carnage with Maximum Carnage. It's an area 2 attack, but we're not too concerned about that. 9 strength, but again, no crits for the defender. Average damage of 3.95. Now onto the 4+ average damage, and this is where it starts to get spicy. We've got two characters coming in at 4.16 average damage each. The key thing here is that they're both strength 7 and they both get an unlimited, or they can re-roll as many dice as they wish. We've got Blade with his Knight of the Damp here. Obviously your target needs to be bleeding beforehand, but he can dish that out no problem whatsoever. And then we've got Modok with his Doomsday Chair, where he can use P-Brain to re-roll as many dice as he wants. Mysterio with his Curtain Call, he's going to get that throw for the extra 1 damage, plus he's going to be getting an extra damage for tricks and traps, because if he throws his opponent within range 3, he's going to be able to trigger that as well, giving him an average damage of 4.2. Medusa using her builder with her Braid Bash. Now, we all said that she had been nerfed. She has been somewhat, it's harder to pull off, but with that flurry, she's going to be able to do an average damage of 4.22. Some big strength 8 attacks here, all with a throw at the back end, and they're all coming in at 4.27 damage. So we've got Ebony Maw with Herald of Doom, we've got Groot with I Am Groot, we've got Hulkbuster with his Meteor Punch, and we've also got Crossbones with his Overpower, but adding his Haymaker in there beforehand, boosting his dice up from 5 to 8. Nick Fury's lead from the front is going to get that trigger on those shield agents, coming in at an average damage of 4.32. And Black Dwarf with his Brutal End, rolling a straight up 10 dice after his Enforced Oblivion, gives us +2, is going to be able to dish out an average of 4.37 damage. Now this one really surprised me, but we've got two characters that are going to be dishing out 4.41 damage on average, and it's because they've both got a 6 strength attack, but basically with a rapid fire that allows them to make a follow-up attack. So we've got Angela with Heaven's Wrath and Sin with Make It Personal. Domino next then with her rapid fire. Now, her rapid fire is significantly better than the others we've seen in this game. First of all, because she's got that ability to dish out and incinerate beforehand. Second of all, she's got Things Tend to Go My Way and Probability Matrix, giving her an average damage of 4.56. Doctor Strange with his Sorcerer Supreme with Shining Circle of the Seraphim next. He's going to be doing an average damage of 4.64. Dr. Voodoo with his Staff of Legba, he's got that unique ability of the Power Burn, which is going to do an average damage of 4.73. Everyone's favourite merc with a mouth then, it's Deadpool with Bang, Bang Bang, Bang Bang Bang. He's also got I Know Karate in there as well. And again, we're making the assumption that we hit all of the triggers that we need, as we have done with all of the other roles, but he's coming in at an average damage of 4.76. Killmonger next, coming in with his Black Ops Strike. We've given him a couple of kill count tokens. He's got focused on the kill. He's coming in at an average damage of 4.78. Ghost Rider with his Penance Stare. Obviously, we've given him the full power, so all the way up to 10 dice, coming in at 4.79 average damage. Two characters next, both with a strength 9 attack, but with a throw off the back end. That is Iron Fist with the Iron Fist, and Jean Grey with her Telekinetic Force, both doing an average of 4.82 damage. Big Daddy D next with his Incantation of Obliteration, and yes, this does have a trigger that allows him to attack again, but remember that has to target a separate character. So this is coming in, we've got 8 strength, we've dished out the Hex beforehand, we're counting failures in both ours and our opponent's rolls, average damage of 4.88. She-Hulk next with the Defense Rest, with one of the largest dice pools we've got in the game, with 11 in total, coming out with an average damage of 4.93. Punisher Aimed Shot. This one is a lot higher than what I thought it would be. We've got those 3 tokens giving him a total 10 strength, plus he's got his Pierce in there, giving him an average damage of 4.96. So into the 5+ average damage characters, these are getting to be the really big hitters now. And first out of the gates is Amazing Spider-Man with Whatever a Spider Can. It's already an 8 strength attack, but it's that catch on a wild which allows him to effectively throw a size 2 piece of terrain at his enemy, which gives him an average damage of 5.03. Speaking of big hitters, arguably one of the biggest, at least physically in the game, it's the Juggernaut with I'm the Juggernaut. He's obviously used his unstoppable momentum, giving him an extra 3 dice, and then we have included that +1 damage for the collision off the back end, giving him an average damage of 5.37. Black Bolt on his injured side with Whisper. It's going to be an 11 strength attack, giving an average damage of 5.42. Okay guys, so into the top 10 now, and there's some really interesting ones here, and you can see there's a couple of characters that are very much outperforming what they should be. But starting off at number 10, we've got Scarlet Witch with her Cruel Twist. Now this is one that I thought was going to be higher up the rankings, but 8 strength, no crits, Hex and Incinerate that we've already dished out, plus we're including skulls. She's doing an average damage of 5.43. Next up then, our second entry for Thanos the Mad Titan. This time he's going to be taking the Reality Gem with him, again using his Cosmic Blast. Average damage this time of 5.48, and that just shows you how good that Reality Gem is for one threat. A character I've been getting a lot of playtime with, and I really didn't like when he first came out, but even though he's had no changes whatsoever to his card, I'm really starting to love him. It's Drax the Destroyer with his Titan Killer. Now there's a couple of things in there. We're assuming that we've got 5 damage on Drax already, so maximizing those additional dice. We've put a Vengeance token on our opponent, and we're getting the +1 damage for the throw, giving us an average damage output of 5.93. Gambit's 52 card pickup is already a great attack, but with the accelerated charge and the fact that we count wilds as 2, that little something extra makes it really easy to get out that extra damage, so he comes in at an average of 5.73. Next then, a nerfed character, and just missing out on a top 5 spot, is Valkyrie with her Dragon Fang. That Flurry and Warrior of Legend really ups her average damage output to a total of 6.1. Into the top 5, this is where the big boys sit, and coming in at number 5, quite surprisingly, is Hulk with Hulk Smash. Rolling 12 dice because we're assuming that he's taken 16 damage in total. Plus he's got that +1 damage off the back end because of the throw. He's going to be dishing out an average damage of 6.49. Coming in at number 4 then is a character I did not think in a million years was going to be anywhere near here when I started putting these together, but it's the Winter Soldier with Red Fury. Now we're giving him the reroll for Spetsnaz training in his Red Fury attack, and we're saying that his assault rifle is going to trigger the rapid fire, but coming out with an average damage of 6.6. This is a 3 threat that people may be sleeping on, including myself. Corvus Glaive coming in at number 3, and if anyone saw my previous video, it is no surprise that this guy is all the way up there with his death blow. He's obviously using his Glaive's Edge so that he counts his blanks, and he's going to be triggering his flurry as well, coming in at an average damage of 6.71. So who has made it to number 2, just missing out on that number 1 spot? It is Sabretooth. I can't believe this. I absolutely hate on Sabretooth a lot. He doesn't make it in my X-Force roster. He hasn't made it in my Brotherhood roster for a long time. But with his Savage Predator triggering the finisher, plus 3 dice from No Mercy, he's dishing out an average damage of 7.62, which is absolutely huge, especially for a 4 threat character. So who has taken the number 1 spot then? Well, it's the second entry for this character, pushing him up from a 4 threat to a 5 threat. It's probably no surprise. It's Corvus Glaive with the Reality Gem, using that death blow with the Glaive's Edge and the flurry. The damage output is 8.55, almost a whole damage more than his next closest, and almost 2 damage or more on average to every other character in the game. There's a reason why Quinn hates this guy, and it is because of this pure damage output. Now, we could have just left the video there, but you guys know me, I love my stats and I love my numbers, so I thought we would take a quick look at the average attacks for each threat level. So this first chart shows us that the average 2 threat is doing 2.54 damage, the 3 threat average is 3.37, 3.71 for a 4 threat, 4.66 for a 5 threat, and then 4.67 for the 6+ threat range. I just bundled them all in together. Now let's have a look at each character in each threat level and see where they are above and below the curve. So starting out with the 2 threats, we already know that Wong and Black Widow are way down way, but we can see the 2 threat average there. We've got 2 characters, both Okoye and Rocket, who are above the 2 threat average. We've then got 2 characters in Bullseye with Pincushion and Nebula, who are above the 3 threat average, and then Bob, Agent of Hydra with Excessive Violence, is going to be above the 4 threat average. Now, Bob is in there with his Excessive Violence, but in reality, it's only ever a one-off, so you could not include him for these calculations. I would still say that Bullseye and Nebula are going to give you far more consistent damage output, but he's in there, he's got the attack, so we had to include him. 3 threats next, and there are a lot of characters under the curve here. Characters who are way below even the 2 threat. X-23 with her Claw Rush, a character I thought had amazing damage output, is actually under the 2 threat average. Now, once again, Bob is bringing that up, but she's still way down below with her Claw Rush. You've also got characters like Mystique, Black Widow, Wasp, Viper, all below that 2 threat average. We do, however, have some overachievers. So we've got Luke Cage with his Sweet Christmas. We've got Domino with her Rapid Fire, all above the 4 threat average. And then we've even got some characters who are above the 5 and 6 threat average. Deadpool, Iron Fist, Punisher, Gambit, Drax, Valkyrie, and of course Winter Soldier, who absolutely tops the chart for the 3 threat, all way above the 6 and 5 threat average. 4 threats next, and even in the 4 threat category, we still have 2 characters who are underachieving, and they are below the 2 threat average, and that is Spider-Man Peter Parker and Daredevil with Devil's Deliverance. Now, Devil's Deliverance can get better the more people are around him. It's obviously an area attack as well, so he's going to be able to do more multiple attacks, but as we discussed, this is all about doing the most damage into a single target. We've got a whole bunch of characters below the 3 threat. Ronan and Mr. Sinister, characters I thought were really going to be further up there. Venom as well below the 3 threat average. But once again, we also have some characters who are above the 5 and 6 threat average. So Dr. Voodoo, Killmonger, Corvus Glaive, and of course our number 2 overall, Sabretooth with his Savage Predator. 5 threats next, and thankfully not a single one of our 5 threats is below that 2 threat average. However, we still have 3 characters that are below not only the 4 but the 3 threat average as well. That's Cassandra Nova, Thor and Cable. And then on to the 6+ threat, and really the only 2 standout ones here for me are Thanos, who's coming in at less than the average 3 threat character, and also Magneto with his reverse polarity coming in less than the average 4 threat character. Magneto, however, I want to address because whilst his builder is good, it's more around what he then gets to do with his builder, throwing additional terrain and things like that. So maybe it's not fair to include all of the additional terrain and things like that he can throw, but we didn't include anybody else's superpowers that allowed them to throw terrain. So we're not going to do it for Magneto, so he just scored quite badly on this exercise. And there we go, guys. There is my breakdown of who are the biggest hitters in Marvel Crisis Protocol version 1.5, if you like, or 2.0, whichever one you want to go with. Let me know down in the comment section below, were there any surprises? Were there characters that were way lower down than you thought they would be and they'd be a lot higher, or indeed vice versa? Did anyone really expect Sabretooth to be in the number 2 position, or indeed Winter Soldier at only 3 threat to be so high up? Again, let me know down in the comment section below. If you've liked this video and want to support the channel, all you have to do is hit that like button. It really does help, and it makes sure that this video spreads and gets to as many people as possible. If you want to support the channel even further, we do have our Patreon now up and running, where from as little as £1 a month you get access to some exclusive Patreon perks, and it will be really helping out the channel as well. We also have a merch store where you can find a whole bunch of MCP inspired t-shirts, and we have the Discord server. It's completely free. There's over sort of 350 people on there now. We talk about all sorts of things to do with MCP, plus a whole bunch of other stuff as well, so make sure you head on over. Guys, as always, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.